Good evening. This time, I'd like to open the Administrative Services Committee meeting for Monday, May 4th. Please call the roll.
Counselor Corradino.
Here.
Counselor McBurdy.
Here.
Counselor Hill.
Here.
Counselor Plunkett.
Present.
Counselor Burridge.
Here. I'd like a motion to approve the minutes of the April 20th, 2020 committee meeting. Counselor Burridge, Counselor McBurdy.
Counselor Corradino.
Yes.
Counselor McBurdy.
Here.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett.
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
Is there any old business for this committee to address? Seeing none, moving right along to the first item under new business. Item number 1, Mark Slozak, City Historian, requests that the City Chamberlain be authorized to accept a donation from the William G. Pomeroy Foundation for the purchase of a plaque that will be placed on the front entrance of City Hall. Mayor, did you want to speak to this, or is anybody else available?
No, I can speak to this. The William G. Pomeroy Foundation is a foundation that's committed to supporting the celebration of community history. So a while back, I want to say back in the fall, the city historian Mark Slozak reached out to me and asked if the city would be interested in advocating and lobbying the Pomeroy Foundation in acknowledging and celebrating Oswego City Hall. As you guys know, as we discussed a couple weeks ago, we're about to begin the renovations of City Hall, and it's an old building. It was built in 1870 and became occupied and has served as City Hall since 1871. So Mr. Slozak put together a narrative and the history of City Hall and submitted it to the foundation, asking for acknowledgement and recognition. And they came back just recently and awarded that. So we get a plaque to put on City Hall to be able to do that. And hopefully, once we get past COVID-19, we can have the plaque installed and then unveil it with maybe a small celebration and commemoration to celebrate the importance of City Hall. And again, the timing of this resolution's perfect, as we're about to invest $2 million to do a $2.6 million project on City Hall to restore it, renovate it, make sure City Hall's around for many, many decades to come. I think this just really comes full circle and shows that, it's more than just a place where we go to conduct city business. It's really more than just a City Hall. It's a gorgeous historic building. It deserves to be recognized. It deserves to be restored, and we're doing both.
All right, very good. Thank you, Mayor. Is there anybody that would like to speak to this? I would think Councilor Gozik has something to say about this historical building.
Yeah, I think I said just about everything, Councilor Corradino. But if you didn't know, one thing that no one's mentioned is the architectural style is also, at that time was very prominent. It's Second French Empire, but in America, it was during the presidency of Ulysses S. Grant. So they refer to it as U.S. Grant style. It has the original mansard roof, and it's made from Onondaga limestone, quarried right here locally, and it's a beautiful building. I'm all in favor of it, of course. I can't wait to see what it says.
All right, very good. Thank you. Anybody else have any comments on this particular resolution? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please? Councilor Hill and Councilor McBurdy.
Counselor Corradino.
Yes.
Counselor McBurdy.
Yes.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett.
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
Item number 2, the City Engineering Office requests that the mayor be authorized to sign change order number 1 for Patricia Electric Incorporated for the East Side Wastewater Treatment Plant Electrical and SCADA Upgrades EFC project, increasing the contract amount of $3,457,310 to $3,461,000 and $444.98. That's $3,461,440.98. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. So this is about a $4,000 change order that the city requested. This is for the relocation of a polymer electric panel, and that runs the polymer skid, which is an important part of the wastewater plant. And our systems are separated, and in more modern wastewater plants, it's actually a system that's put together where the electrical panel to run this skid is part of the system that runs the actual plant itself, rather than two different isolated systems. So this is just a small change order that the wastewater staff requested to put it all as together as one system. Makes it easier to monitor and easier to operate. And since the project's already going on, we thought a change order with the company already on site would be the easiest and cheapest way to go about it.
And so the total amount of the cost for this change order is $4,134.98. Just want to put that in the public record, that amount. Any comments or concerns from the council for the mayor on this one? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please? Counselor Burridge, Counselor Plunkett.
Counselor Cordino,
Yes.
Counselor McBroody,
Yes.
Counselor Hill,
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett,
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
Item number 3, Thomas Kells, Commissioner of the Department of Public Works, requests authorization for the city chamberlain to complete a budget amendment to the water fund for the sole purpose of purchasing water meters as soon as insufficient funds are foreseen for the fiscal year 2020. Mr. Mayor?
So thank you. If you remember last year, we developed, I can't remember if it was last year or 2 years ago, we developed that revolving fund. So when people purchase water meters, the funds just go back into that fund so that code enforcement doesn't have to come to city hall or city council to get funding for this, or DPW, since the water fund falls under DPW every time they need water funds. So we set up that revolving account. And I can't remember if the initial seed money we put in was 20,000 or 40,000, but I guess this is just to replenish that account because we set it up in either 2018 or 2019. My understanding is you have to do it every year. So that's what we're doing.
All right, very good. Yeah, I do remember that we voted on this a couple times. So just re-upping for the year 2020. Any questions or comments from the council on this one?
Counselor,
Yes, Counselor Hill.
just curious procedurally why, if we established it as a revolving fund, we still have to come back and approve it each time. I'm just curious why that is required.
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't really know the answer myself because I mean, when we set up the revolving fund, it was to prevent having to do this over and over again. All I know is I guess the funds don't go through the change of the calendar year. My guess is it's just an accounting issue, but I thought when we set up that fund, if I remember right, it was 40,000. We put 40,000 in, and the small markup we get on a meter would keep replenishing that fund so that the staff can just continue to buy. I guess this is a yearly thing that we have to do, and it's not really a revolving fund, but an annual fund that we have to establish every year, which would have been nice to know back then, but whatever.
Okay. Counselor Hill, does that answer your question?
It does. It's counterproductive because the intent was to not cause any delay in getting more water meters as we
Correct.
needed them.
And
So to
that's
have
why
to come
this,
back and authorize that funding seems to go against the intent.
right. And this, and as the resolution says, when insufficient funds are foreseen, well, that's now. That's why the resolution's here, and we need to order water meters, and so now we'll have to order them as quickly as possible and get them in to sell them.
Okay. Yes, Counselor Walker, I see.
Yes, I got a quick question. One
when you gave the 40 grand, now when you buy a meter, does that go right back into the fund? I think it should just revolve like that, and then we don't have to keep putting them into it. So,
Yeah, so the intent, just to rewind a bit, the change in fee for the water meter, before we changed that cost, the city was actually losing money for every water meter they sold. So the city would buy a water meter for, just for the sake of easy numbers, $200 and sell them for like $190. And we were actually losing money on every water meter we sold. What we did is we increased our price to match what we were. I don't even think there is a markup, actually. I think we are charging what we pay. I can refresh myself on the numbers and have them for next Monday's council, so that we're actually breaking even. And the intent was to take the 40 grand that we did last year or the year before, I can't remember, and give that, then it would automatically revolve and just continue, and code enforcement could restock as they see fit as they were going and running low. The money, when we established the account, I thought that's what we did, to be quite honest. I thought that when somebody bought a $200 water meter, we took the money, handed it over, and went back into that account so that 2 months from now they could go buy, and the city could go buy and replenish the stock that it had. That was the intent. If that's not what happens, that was certainly the intent, and we'll have to sort this all out.
okay, thank you.
All right. Anybody else have any concerns on this one?
So, Rob, can I ask,
Yes, Counselor.
is this something that we should fix? So is it a question of the money is coming in when the people buy their water meters and it's going somewhere else, as opposed to going back into the fund, and we can just fix that clerical or accounting glitch so that it becomes a revolving fund? Does the council have to do something to make that happen?
Well, I think that's very good question. And that's the clarification that I need. To be honest, I looked at this agenda item Friday. I didn't think much of it. And then it dawned on me over the weekend, like I thought we took care of this already. So I need to get more clarification. But to answer your question, if there is a way, then the council would have to do it. And the action, I believe, would be to create a true revolving fund that does not, where the calendar year isn't relevant. It's a revolving fund and should be set aside to be a separate fund, not part of the city's operating budget, certainly not part of the water fund. Water fund is low enough, and we spend every penny of it. We don't need to separate it from everything else. So I have to get clarification, see if we can do that. And if we can, that's what we should have been advised to do in the first place. And that's what we will do if we can. That makes the most sense. And that was our intent the first time.
Okay.
Great question.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else have a question or concern on this one? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please? Counselor McBurdy, Counselor Hill.
Counselor Cordino,
Yes.
Counselor McBurdy, Counselor McBurdy,
Sorry. Sorry about that. Yes.
Counselor Hill,
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett,
Yes.
Counselor Burridge,
Yes.
Item number 4, Philip D. Cady, Police Chief, is requesting permission to purchase a 2020 Chevrolet Impala 4-door sedan in an amount not to exceed $26,000 using funds from the local drug forfeiture account. Mr. Mayor?
So this $26,000 is not part of the city operating budget. This is money that comes in from the local drug forfeiture account. What that means is the city of Oswego participates in the county drug task force. We contribute to that quite heavily, and the money or the assets that we seize from drug busts or drug raids, the cash goes into this account. And we're allowed to spend it on equipment or materials that will contribute to the drug task force. So Chief Cady identified the need for another vehicle and came forward with these funds to use to buy that. We used a not to exceed amount. The quote we got from a local dealer is a bit below that, and that's how that number was generated.
All right. In the interest of transparency, I'll just read there were 4 bids for that. First one was $30,699.50. Second one was $26,478. Third one was $33,370. And the fourth and local bid and lowest bid was $25,023.18. Any questions or concerns from the council on this one? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please? Counselor Plunkett, Counselor Burridge.
Counselor Corodino,
Yes.
Counselor McBurdy,
Yes.
Counselor Hill,
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett,
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
All right, very good. I believe that was the last item for administrative services. Is there any other business that we need to attend to here? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please? Counselor Hill, Counselor McBurdy.
Counselor Corodino,
Yes.
Counselor McBurdy,
Yes.
Counselor Hill,
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett,
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
At this time, I'd like to call the Physical Services Committee meeting for May 4th, 2020 to order. Please call the roll.
Counselor Hill,
Here.
Counselor Burridge,
Here.
Counselor Walker,
Here.
Counselor Gozek.
Here.
Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of our April 20th, 2020 committee meeting? Counselor Gozick, Counselor Walker.
Counselor Hill,
Yes.
Counselor Burridge,
Yes.
Counselor Walker,
Yes.
Counselor Gozek.
Yes.
Is there any old business to come before this committee? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business under communication. Item number 1, the Community Development Office received a request from Mercedes Neese, Executive Director of the H. Lee White Maritime Museum, regarding the H. Lee White Museum's Paddle Fest to be held on Saturday, July 18th, 2020. This is a recurring event. I did speak with Mercedes today, and she advised me that she's working closely with local law enforcement and safety personnel. They're well versed in all of the state requirements. They know that there's a chance the event may not be allowed to go on because it does draw approximately 300 people, so it may not be permitted as a mass gathering. So she is fully aware of that. But she said she's working closely with local and state officials to see if they can hold the event with proper distancing on that July 18th date. If that date doesn't work out, she said they are looking at a date in August. Does anyone have any questions on this request?
Counselor, I'll just speak to generally because I'm getting a lot of inquiries to my email.
Mhm.
What we're advising event organizers to do is plan for summer events as you normally would and try to take it on a month by month basis. So, events in June, just about all events in Oswego in June have now been canceled. The Lions Craft Show, for instance, etc. And then, beginning in June, we'll take a look at July events. So that's when they reach out for permission for public space or to use parks or advice or some insight on how to proceed. We just tell them, proceed and plan as normal. And as the situation is still changing day by day. So, plan as if you normally would. And then once your event gets about a month out, a decision needs to be made. So, and you'll make the decision as the conditions exist that day. So, once we move into July events, we'll start looking at consideration in June on what to do. The exception is Harbor Fest, which I'm in contact with them, and we're taking a look at that. But that's kind of, just so you guys know, that's how as these requests come in, that's kind of how we're advising to proceed.
Great. Excellent. Does anyone have any questions on this request? Okay, seeing none, could I have a motion, please? Counselor Gozick, Counselor Burridge.
Counselor Hill,
Yes.
Counselor Burridge,
Yes.
Counselor Walker,
Yes.
Counselor Gozek.
Yes.
Item number 2, Thomas Kells, Commissioner of Public Works and Parks and Recreation, has received a request from Teresa Slozik, Vice President of the Oswego Bookmobile, for permission to use public space during their annual literacy program during the summer 2020. And Counselor McBurdy, would you like to speak to this request?
Yes, thanks, Kevin. So You'll notice that there are some events that are on here that when we sent in our original request, we had not yet been canceled. Obviously, the events that have been canceled, we won't be participating in, but we are planning to be in the neighborhood on our regular route for the summer program, and we're hopeful that some of the later summer events we'll be able to participate in as usual, such as farmers market and movies in the park, hopefully. We'll see how that goes. But the resolution is worded as able in regards to the special events. So I'm not really thinking that we necessarily have to make an actual change to the resolution.
Okay,
Events that aren't being held, we won't be able to, if that
Right.
makes any sense.
okay, excellent. Any questions on this request? Could I have a motion, please? Counselor Gozick, Counselor Burridge.
Counselor Hill,
Yes.
Counselor Burridge,
Yes.
Counselor Walker,
Yes.
Counselor Gozick,
Yes.
Item number 3, Thomas Kells, Commissioner of Public Works and Parks and Recreation, has received a request from Janet Harris to donate a memorial bench to be placed in Shapiro Park in memory of her husband, Clifford Fritz Harris. And I understand Counselor Cordino would like to speak to this item.
Yes, thank you, Councilor Hill. Clifford Fritz Harris, as everybody knew him, Fritz Harris, was a counselor, or as we used to call him in the 70s and 80s, he was an alderman for most of the 70s and some of the 80s. And I think this is a very, very appropriate tribute that his family is asking here for. Not only was he an alderman / counselor when the park was put in, he was a strong advocate for a lot of the improvements here in the city of Oswego. And on top of it, I talked to Mrs. Harris last night. She can actually see the park from her home and will be able to see the bench, which I believe they had a spot that they'd like to have it situated in. I told her that she should probably work with the DPW if this is approved, but I strongly support this. As I said, I think it's a great honor and tribute for an alderman, a man who gave many, many years of service to the city of Oswego. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Anyone else like to speak to this request? Okay, could I have a motion, please? Counselor Walker, Counselor Gozick.
Counselor Hill,
Yes.
Counselor Burridge,
Yes.
Counselor Walker,
Yes.
Counselor Gozick,
Yeah. Yes.
Item number 4, the Zoning and Planning Office has received a request from Melissa Gallagher, owner of a single-family dwelling at 109 East Utica Street, for use of public space to enclose an existing porch fronting East Utica Street. I did take the opportunity to reach out to Mr. McGann in the Zoning and Planning Office, and he indicated that the office has no concerns with the request. This is in the 4th Ward, so Counselor Walker, do you have any concerns or anything to add?
I do not have no concerns. I believe it'd be a nice update to that corner. It'd look really nice there.
Excellent. Anyone else have any questions or concerns with this request? Okay, could I have a motion, please? Counselor Walker, Counselor Gozick.
Counselor Hill,
Yes.
Counselor Burridge,
Yes.
Counselor Walker,
Yes.
Counselor Gozick,
Yes.
Is there any other business to come before this committee? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Counselor Burridge, Counselor Walker.
Counselor Hill,
Yes.
Counselor Burridge,
Yes.
Counselor Walker,
Yes.
Counselor Gozick,
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to call the Planning and Development Committee to order, please.
Counselor Walker,
Here.
Counselor Cordino,
Here.
Counselor McBurdy,
Here.
Could I get a motion to approve the minutes for April 20th, 2020? Counselor McBreedy, Counselor Cordino.
Counselor Walker,
Yes.
Counselor Cordino,
Yes.
Counselor McBurdy,
Yes.
Is there any old business? Seeing none, we'll go to new business. The city engineer office requests that the common council approves the revised plumbing code. I'm going to have to refer this to the mayor or the attorney.
Yeah, I can speak to this. Last cycle, we are changing some of the electrical code testing procedures in addition to a bunch of other changes. The plumbing code, we are doing the same thing as far as testing goes. One major issue in city government, if you're doing business or trying to build something, as we learned with all the development going on recently, is the plumbing board has typically only licensed like 7 licensed plumbers to serve the whole city, most of who are commercial, large scale plumbers who do large scale developments in buildings. And that has put a strain on the plumbers who serve residential homeowners or smaller units. So in addition, that because there's so few, it's like a monopoly. It drives the cost up. Accessibility is minimal, and it creates problems for homeowners and people looking to do major development. So the city came forward and put some pressure on the board to begin licensing more plumbers. And what we found is the testing system, just like the electrical board, was really convoluted and distorted and sporadic and inconsistent. So the same changes that we're putting into the electrical code is for testing procedures we want to do with the plumbing code. We are identifying 2 months of the year. I can't recall if it's January and July for plumbing or if it's May and September for plumbing. I believe it's May and September for plumbing. So we're specifying 2 months that the test will be given every year. And then we are putting in the same procedure as electrical board, where the application will be published 90 days out. You have until 30 days before the test to submit it. The board creates the test. The person takes the test. A member of the board and a city employee will be there to administer the test to ensure it's fair. And then they grade it and get back to the person within a month of taking the test. And that transparency and consistent procedure will hopefully give applicants a more fair shot. A big difference in the plumbing code is we are going to limit the number of tests, number of questions per test, and the time limit. Historically, the plumbing board would give a 120 question test and give them 2 hours to do it with 2 complicated drawings, and it was impossible to get it done on time and all of that. So we're putting an end to that sort of system and putting in some transparency, consistency, and some fairness to people who are giving the test anonymous effort. So proud of these changes. They're consistent and just about the same as the electrical board. So now when a developer comes and wants to build in this city, our permitting office can say, okay, here's your building permit. Here's the requirements. Here's what you need to do. By the way, for this job, realize that you need a City of Oswego licensed electrician and plumber. Oh, your job's in November. Okay, well, they need to be looking for the test in July and August or September. So make sure they're enrolled in the test and they study and they pass, so you can use who you want. Otherwise, you have to use a plumber who's already licensed. So just transparency and try to make Oswego more business friendly and open for business.
Very good. Thank you. Is there any more questions or concerns about this? Mr. Caracoli.
Thank you. Just wanted to clarify that under Section 2, Mayor, the way it's currently written, the exam is offered the last Wednesday in January and the last Wednesday in July. If that we can modify that. Obviously, that's not going to substantially impact the form or the content of the code, but whatever the feeling is. I know that we were talking about those 2 different time frames, but as it currently is written, it's January and July.
I think we liked January and July for plumbing, and then the electrical we specified 2 months. Do you remember offhand what the months were?
I believe, I want to say, was it May and November?
Yeah, I can't recall, but I don't particularly care what the 2 months are as long as they're identified and they stick to them.
And that's, the other issue from you may question, well, wait a minute, why are we just reviewing this? And this is the plumbing code, but yet the electrical code, we have a public hearing scheduled for that. All I can tell you is that the plumbing code is derived from the New York State General City Law. There's it's Article 4 of the General City Law. And each municipality has to adopt its own plumbing code consistent with Article 4. There is no provision similar in the General City Code for the electrical code. It's just the way it is. I don't know why, but there isn't. So we adopted the electrical code as a local law. The plumbing code is adopted by action of the Common Council in consultation with the Board of Examining Plumbers, but there's no local law requirement for this particular provision.
Interesting.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions or concerns? Yes, Mr. Cordino.
Yeah, I just want to add in, as a member of the Water Review Committee that accepts forms from people who have issues with their water bill / sewer bill. One of the main complaints that we were getting, and I've been on this committee ever since the inception, which is over 3 years now. One of the main complaints that people were having, especially for installation of water meters, was that they couldn't find a plumber to do it in a timely basis. And I'm hoping that these changes to the plumbing code will open up some opportunities for other people to get plumbing licenses, and then in turn help the people who need water meter installations. Because as I said, it seems like there weren't enough plumbers to go around to do these minor jobs. And maybe it's a case that the big plumbing shops here in town just are too busy to do small little jobs like installing a meter for somebody. But again, I'm hopeful that this, on top of all the other changes we're making to improve the testing and the requirements, that we'll have more licensed plumbers in the city. Thank you.
Very good. Seeing if there's no more questions or concerns, I'd like to get a motion if I could, please. Mr. Cordino, Ms. McBurney, please.
Counselor Walker,
Yes.
Counselor Cordino,
Yes.
Counselor McBurney,
Yes.
Okay, is there any more new business coming for this committee? If there's no more, I'd like to get a motion to adjourn, please. Counselor Cordino, Counselor McBurney.
Counselor Walker,
Yes.
Counselor Cordino,
Yes.
Counselor McBurney.
Yes.